What I'm saying is the bike was the place that I went that all that disappeared. All the noise stopped and I just got lost in it. And I'm glad I kept going, because in that next year, like being able to dive into riding that way, like really helped me. I never wanted to stop. I can see why my family might have wanted to. There's two things that pop up on my Instagram feed all the time. And one of them is the goon riding video from early on, and the other one is the battle with Stu. I can honestly say that was one of the funnest races I ever raced. We battled hard. The second moto we battled, but the first moto, it was like...
It was on.
It was on.
Gypsy.
Is it a different level of fitness you've got to have to be a test rider? Like, what are they looking for? Like, are they looking for you to match the speed? Are they looking for consistency? Are they looking for time on the bike? Like, what's that role kind of look like?
Yeah, I would say in the beginning, like for me, it was like speed. Like I felt like I could match the guys, but now, man, like I was like 4 seconds a lap slower than Chase last time we tested, which was like super discouraging until I like went to the race and I like would have qualified like 4th or 5th. But I don't think I could match the speed anymore. And I've probably not riding enough to probably maintain that. But my feeling on the bike has got, in my way to articulate what I feel, has definitely gotten more refined. And so I think that's probably the most valuable, and I can still go fast enough to be able to put it through its paces. But the way that I can communicate is probably the most, I would say, the most valuable thing.
And so this is a bit of just a selfish kind of topic here for me. but like when you're riding and you're trying to test a specific thing, like how do you tell? What's your process? What are you thinking about? What are you trying to feel? Like what's the metrics you're sort of going after?
Yeah, it's different for different, if we're doing things. mapping or some type of engine part, it's definitely different than suspension. So like today we did a lot of mapping, and so there's first thing is I try to remove variables. Like I always do the same amount of laps, always start and stop in the same place. I always try to hit the same part of the track, because when you add variables, you can sway the outcome. Like if you're not hitting a jump in the same, say we did a map, part of the way I can tell top end power is how far I went on the jump. How easy was the jump to do. So I use markers a lot. There's usually like probably like today there was for sure 3 places every time I got like hyper focused in those areas. And one was in this pretty tight rutted corner. We've been working today on kind of our 250 has great response, but sometimes it's like a little bit, you crack the throttle and it wants to almost take off on you. So that was a perfect place for me to go, okay, I'm in second gear for sure. When I opened the throttle, how did that feel? How was that different? Was that better? Was that worse? And then another place I was like, what kind of miles an hour am I doing based on visual and feel and distance? How is that different in that area? So I try to, if there's one area we're trying to work on, I try to pick a spot, hit it the same every single time, and then just get information. Because I think it's, sometimes people confuse, they come up to me and they're like, man, you set that bike up good. And I'm like, dude, honestly, I probably didn't set it up. I just acquired a ton of information. So where when it comes time to do the work with the riders, they've got like a lot of information to use. And that information has been collecting for like years now. And so now you have a huge asset to where you can go back and use, and it just continues to roll. And so like with suspension, I'll pick a bump, say we're trying to, the bike is squatting too much exiting the turn. I'll try to find a turn that I know is going to be the same all day, and I know it's going to have good moisture, and it really kind of exacerbates that feeling. And then I'll try to make it do it every time. And then when I can find something that helps that problem but doesn't hurt another problem, then I feel like we've probably done the right thing. I don't know if that makes sense, but
yeah.
I've tried to remove variables and then make it a process rather than just going like riding around the track and going like, I don't know, like, I did this or did that.
And I think like it makes sense that you're not trying to just take it over a whole lap at the start. It's just a very specific section or very specific like part of the track is what you're kind of like applying it to.
Yep. And then the rest of the track too it then becomes, what did it do that was bad around the rest of the track? You know, like if it fixed this one area, but it was just horrible everywhere else, like it's obviously not gonna work. So the whole lap is still important because you're still getting information. But for me, I really try to like hyperly focus on a couple areas.
Yeah. And I guess, do you take it like personally when, I think this year, obviously Chase was having those crashes, and then it's like, well, the bike, or it's Chase, or, are you taking any of it on board? Like, damn, man, like the bike's sick.
Yeah, that Canard guy, he sucks.
Yeah.
For sure in the beginning, like I would be really bummed if if I remember Ken, there was a couple like massive misses right away. And I'm just like, dude, I can't do this. I'm not good enough to figure it out. But kind of what I learned is like, I'm never going to be Ken Roxon. I'm never going to be Chase Sexton, but how can I add value to them? How can I make their process easier? How can I wean down for them 10 parts into 5? And then as a whole, like if you look at our platform right now, how do we, being somewhat involved on the production side, how do we, like in 5 years when we do a new model, how do we make that fit? How can I add input to that kind of boosts the whole thing? So hopefully that makes sense in that like I'm trying to, it's more like of an entire approach as it is one fork setting that I came up with. It's like I'm trying to, the whole package, like the whole team, like we want to try to all move in the same direction, as opposed to like, oh yeah, Trey tested this shock and it's amazing. I think that's what I was looking for in the beginning. Like, wow, dude, thanks for saving my career with that shock. But what I quickly realized is that I mean, maybe you get that, like maybe you get a great setting, once or twice in a year, but that's highly, like the praise is highly to the suspension guy in the chassis tech. I'm just the guy telling him what it did. So yeah, I guess I'm pretty long-winded a lot, I guess, but
I love it. Same.
So I guess what I kind of shifted from like, man, I really needed to be the guy to come up with the setting, to how do we get as much information as possible so that when it comes time to be on the track, that rider has everything they need so that they can be the best they can be. And so I take the stuff way less personal. Like when Chase had a couple of those crashes, we changed some things with our chassis this year with some rigidity balance things. And, I kind of go like, okay, yeah, well, it's doing that. How does that help us? How does that hurt us? And what do we got to do to move forward? And it's less about like, man, I really steer the ship wrong, which I think is probably better because it's less about me and more about how do we do this as a team. And it's just more manageable. I'm not always trying to like be super test rider.
We're excited to announce the launch of our new membership site, gypsytales.com. packed with exclusive content and perks that you won't find anywhere else. This is your chance to become a part of the Gypsy Gang. And as a special bonus, if you sign up to an annual membership, you'll be entered into the draw to win our custom-built TC125. Gypsy Gang.